Welcome to Untamed Blossoms, the podcast where we celebrate the untamed journey of womanhood. Here, we tell the stories of incredible women who have embraced their authenticity, inspiring others to do the same.
From entrepreneurs to artists, activists to adventurers, we share triumphs, challenges, and the beauty of self-discovery. These are the stories of women blazing their own trails, breaking free, and blooming unapologetically.
Join us to connect, be inspired, and celebrate the power of women's stories. Together, let's rewrite the rules and embrace our wildness.
Welcome back. We're so excited to see you again.
Thank you for having me back.
Anytime. I just think we had such a great conversation. We want to make sure you get to tell your whole story because it has taken some twists and some turns.
I'm so like on my seat. Like, what is she going to say?
Sometimes I feel like I'm interviewing, but today I feel like I'm in a story time. Like I feel like this could be a PBS
Storytelling.
Yeah. I'm like, whoa, this is wild.
I know. Let's call Kim Burns. Come on, Kim Burns. This is the story of Enshané. Right. No, I'm too lazy to write a book, so I appreciate being able to just tell it.
Yeah.
So you had gone to college, international studies, went to Japan, loved it, fell in love with it. Mom diagnosed with MS, just as a recap, if anybody didn't listen to part one. And mom sent you off knowing that she wasn't doing very well, but really was wanting you to fly. And so you left to go to Japan for your second sort of life there and left her in the hands of family locally. And spoiler alert, did the brother actually get proven that he was stealing all of her checks? Did that
many years down the road?
Yeah, yeah. So you were correct.
Many years.
Yeah. So you were afraid that the brother was stealing her money, and turns out later down the road it came to fruition that that was actually true. Yeah, sad, super sad. So, but you're in Japan. You're getting updates with your mom. You're calling her. So lead us down the road of where you went next.
So
or how your life went in Japan.
When I interviewed for this job, they asked me where I wanted to go in Japan. And of course, I picked the top three that anyone else who wants to go to Japan says. It's Tokyo, Osaka, or Kyoto. Those are like the top three cities.
Right.
And I'd been to Kyoto, so no brainer. They sent me to Kochi, Japan, which is like the Alabama of Japan. It's like, I spent all these years, studying this refined Japanese. It's just like here, when you go to redneck country, you don't know what people are saying. Doesn't matter how much of the language you can speak.
Yeah.
If you don't speak their language, you don't understand it.
The dialects are this different, just like here. Yeah.
Even more so. Yeah. I think it's really mysterious how, and I think it's just because of the mountains and you have different islands, that the language just morphed into all these different dialects, that it's not that they're saying the same words. The words are different.
Yeah.
More different than like British English and American English. It's just, they're completely different words.
Yeah.
So I had to learn a whole new brand of Japanese
on the
fly.
But
it was fascinating.
Quickly.
It was just fascinating. And so I got there, and this is like literally the weather's like Alabama. It's sweltering. I got there in the middle of July. It was summer break for them. And they plopped me down in this Board of Education. And they just said, yeah, you're just going to wait until the school year starts in September. Make yourself comfortable. Okay. I was the first English teacher in that town that was brought through that program. And they didn't have a clue what they were going to do with me, and I had no clue what I was doing there. So about 2 weeks after I got there, I noticed that there was a cultural center at the top of the hill, like the the Board of Education was at the town center, kind of at the bottom of this hill. And at the top of the hill is a big, beautiful cultural center that they had just built. So somebody had mentioned, they just said, just go up there and why don't you just go check it out? Maybe you can go volunteer since you got all this free time. So I went up there and saw that they were just having all these different kinds of events. So I tried to make myself useful. And there was a director of the cultural center there. And it turns out it was an individual that I met at a concert I got dragged to by the vice principal one night. She just showed up at my door. Like I was doing laundry on like a Saturday and she's just like, duh. She's like, hello. And she didn't speak that much English. She's like, come. Okay, where are we going? Concerto. I'm like, concert? Okay, concert. So she drags me to this like festival in like the rice fields and there's like bands and the lady on the stage, the MC, she just invites me up on stage. And she's like, this is our new English teacher in town. Welcome. And I'm like, huh? She just shoves the microphone to me and she's like, karaoke. And I was like, what?
This is my dream.
This
is my dream.
So we like, sing a song, choose a song. And the only song that came to mind is Sakamoto Q's song, which was famous over here under, I think the name of the group was A Taste of Honey. It's all because of you. I'm feeling sad and blue. If you're not of that era, it's kind of disco era. But I think we call it sukiyaki here.
Yeah.
But over there, it is still super popular. Not the English version, but the original version that came out in like the 60s, I think, by Sakamoto Q. So I had learned the Japanese version when I was an exchange student. So I was like, yeah, bring me sukiyaki. Come on, let's do it. So I sang the Japanese version. Everybody's just like, oh my God, singing sukiyaki, you know. So
You're now
I had cemented, my place.
They're like, she's a goddess.
Yeah.
We're worshiping her now. Yeah.
And that's the thing about Japan. Like, it's really easy to impress Japanese. And so, then like everybody knows who you are, right? So they all invited me to this dinner after the festival. And it was some of the folks from the bands who performed there. And it was this cool kind of bar downtown. By this time, I'm like, where'd the vice principal go? And they're like, oh, she's gone. I'm like, how am I going to get home? They're like, oh, we'll figure it out. Don't worry. Just come with us. So we're at this dinner and this man just keeps like trying to talk to me. And I could tell like everybody was, they're all like, Nomoto-san. What do you think of this? And he was an older gentleman and they're asking him questions and he's answering and they're cracking up. I couldn't understand what he was saying, but obviously everybody liked this guy. They thought he was hilarious and he seemed like he was just kind of a leader type thing, but just really cool. And so they introduced me to him. And then one of them was like, oh, you're American. Tell a black joke. What? Black joke. And I'm like thinking like, black joke, what does that mean? Well, it's not what I, as an American, would initially take as like a black person joke. No. Black jokes in Japan are like dark humor because Americans are known to having this kind of dark humor. And so I was like, oh, okay, dark, because I was like, black joke, they're like dark humor. I was like, oh, okay. The only thing I could think of was, how you're little and we called them snaps at the time or cracks.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're like, your mom is so fat. I'm 21. Like, what are you doing? So I just thought of something. I looked at him and I said in my best Japanese, your mom's teeth are so yellow she spits cheese. I was like, ah! Well, he's like, he got upset.
Oh no.
He got mad. And I was like, uh-oh. And he said, well, you're stupid. And everybody's like, Nomoto-san, God, that. It's a joke. You got dark humor. And he's like, oh, okay. I'll think of a good one. So this kind of banter went on all night. Turns out, when I went back to the cultural center, he was the director. And he's like, oh, girl who called my mom ugly. And I was like, hi. Well, eventually we had a friendship, which ultimately became a relationship.
Love this for you.
And what I really enjoyed about him was the fact that he was just open and friendly and jovial and really loved his work, really dedicated to that cultural center and having events and doing things. It was a beautiful cultural center. And I noticed everybody in town, like, just, they loved him. Like, no more sign. He's like, cool. You know this, you know that. Well, it turns out one day I was with some of my coworkers. We were going to lunch. And she says, yeah, Nomo Tassan's wife, she is just so, like, you know, he's been married, what? It's been like 20 years. And they're like, yeah, like 20 years. And his kids, they're probably about the same age as you. I said, come again?
Oh, no.
no.
But here's the thing. And I have to rephrase this. And I probably should rephrase this. I wasn't dating him at the time. This was like right after I met him at that concert. Okay. But when they said that, something in me, it was like a punch in the gut. And I had just met this man. Okay. And I was like, now I'll never have a chance. What? What? You know, I was super disappointed. I hadn't been dating this man. Nothing. I probably met him 1 or 2 times. But even at that point, I knew. Like, I knew. There was something about him, something our paths were meant to cross. And eventually, you know, we had the conversation because we were going on drives and nothing had been intimate yet. But I was like, I heard you have a wife. And he's like, I'm going to introduce you to her. Okay, how about we just do that? Because then you'll understand. And I met her. And she's like, yeah, we're separated. You know, he can do whatever he wants. He's had mistresses throughout our marriage. And I'm like, wait, no, I'm not gonna be a mistress. What are we talking about here? So we kind of just kept things up, but that was my understanding that I can pretty much do whatever I want too. And so I did, you know. Until one day, we had a festival that we both were in together. I was singing with his band. And there's a really famous festival in Kochi called the Yosakoi Festival. If you look it up, if you Google it, it's spectacular. It's almost like, I don't know if you've ever been to Caravana. Okay, if you go to Toronto up north, every August they have a festival called Caravana. And it's the biggest Caribbean festival in North America.
Wow.
They have a festival like that in Kochi, and it's indigenous to Japan, to Kochi, but it's very Japanese, and it started in the 50s to kind of boost local businesses. But it to me, it reminds me so much of Caravana. They have these giant trucks and these dance teams. It's almost like the Brazilian samba festival, and these dance teams all have their costumes on, and on the trucks are the bands playing the music, and they're all dancing. That festival has grown to like the hundreds of thousands. Now it's crazy. At the time, it was still big, but it was still local. But I think with the onset of social media and everything, now you've got teams that come from Vietnam, Indonesia, Canada, Dubai to dance in the Yosakoi Festival.
Wow.
So it's a big deal. So we were in the same team together. We were going to perform. I happen to have a boyfriend who is down from Tokyo. Mind you, Mr. Nomoto was like at the time 42, 43. Okay. I'm doing my thing. He shows up at my apartment to pick me up, catches my surfer boyfriend from Tokyo, and just completely lost his shit. Like,
Wow.
Oh no.
chased him around the apartment.
Oh my God.
Mind you, no Motosan was a 3rd level black belt
Oh,
in
got it.
Japanese Kung Fu. Was ready to this service is around my time. I was like, wow, wait, okay.
Cartoon?
What is happening?
Right. So I guess that was the first time I realized, okay, he really likes me. This is a little more serious than I thought. And so he spent the day at the festival like in tears. It was crazy. Like I was just like, are you okay?
Like, you have a wife.
Yeah.
You got a wife. You're not
It
about
was
my
like,
little boyfriend.
nobody's ever treated me like this. Nobody's ever done this to me before. And he's trying to be in the festival like, I can't believe you did this to me. And by that time, he told me, he was like, I realized that I was willing to let everything go to be with you. Okay, well, I guess I need to figure this out. And things weren't going super well with on the job front. It turns out the folks were not ready to have an English teacher in their town. And I just didn't want to get caught up in the politics. So I was contemplating just moving myself to Tokyo and just doing my own thing because I had this relationship now and I wasn't ready to go home.
Yeah.
And so I didn't. And after a couple jobs, I went to Tokyo, stayed there for a little bit, went to Nagano, worked in a hotel up there. That was a great experience. He came back to the United States with me for a break and met my mother for the first time. Now, by this time, my father had passed, and he passed when I was an exchange student in Kyoto, actually. And I think there was something about my relationship with my father that kind of transferred over to this older man, right?
Yeah.
Who doted on me. I mean,
Yeah.
just treated me like a queen. And by this time, Yuki-chan, that's Nomoto-san, he was divorced from his wife. I was cool with his kids. When I moved to Tokyo, he was like, hey, connect with my son. As a matter of fact, I'm going to help you get this apartment so that you're just around the corner from my son. We'll help find, because they wouldn't just rent to foreigners out there. You know, or if you were a foreigner, there was a certain section of town that they would like sequester everybody. Otherwise, if you went into a real estate office, they just do this. No. Even if you spoke the best Japanese, they don't hear it. So he helped me get an apartment that was not in one of those sequestered areas. And I built up a relationship with his son and his fiance. And eventually I moved back to Kochi and just decided, okay, if we're gonna do this, let's just do this, I guess. And I had my first son in 1999.
Nice.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
That's awesome.
So are you still teaching there, or what are you doing during this time?
So by this time, quit all the jobs, left Nagano, went back to Kochi. And when they found out, his parents found out I was pregnant. His parents, all the way up until this point, just thought we were really good friends. And his dad, like, had fought the Americans in World War II. So,
Oh wow.
the last thing he would expect was that he'd have a little grandson from the enemy.
Oh.
There's a
And
lesson.
I did
Save your
become the
face.
enemy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did become the enemy. Once he found out I was marrying his son, I was the enemy. And we basically got kicked out of the house and moved into a little apartment. And it was funny because Yuki-chan was like, I've never lived outside of my house. This is so exciting. I've never lived away from my parents. And I think he was like 46, 47.
Because their culture, right, is very multi-generational living.
Right.
That's right. And his dad had actually built him, a house for his first family. Because remember, he was married for 22 years.
Right.
Kids were grown, he had divorced, but he was still in the house that his father built on the family compound.
Right.
So there's a family compound. The parents had their own little house. And this is only in the country. When you move into the city, things are a lot different. But because he grew up in a farming town, there was a compound and then the second house where he was. And his father was like, oh, no, 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 you are not moving that woman up in here. So we got married, but I think maybe 3 or 4 people showed up.
Wow.
Some coworkers and a few friends. Definitely not his parents. And then my son was born, and they flipped because he was beautiful, of
Yeah.
course, and babies can do that to people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Soften
so
them
we
quite a
forged
bit.
an
They soften them quite a bit. Yeah.
it did, and especially his mother, which I didn't know until after she died. I can't remember. She was born in America.
Oh.
Right. She
She's
was born
technically a citizen.
in Sacramento.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
birthright.
it was a family secret.
That tracks. Yep.
Right. I
Yep.
mean, she was born what is now Sacramento. Back then it was like Biggs or something. My sister-in-law's parents, they had retired, and these are folks who live here in Washington State, okay? I never met them, but they just got into like looking up genealogy and birth certificates of different family members. Well, they decided to look up my now husband's family tree, and they found her birth certificate in Biggs, California, and went and got it.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And gave it to me. And he had never he didn't know the details.
Yeah.
He didn't know his mother was born. He knew she was born in America, but that was the extent of it. Well, in
Yeah.
1927, she had been born in this part of California. Her dad decided to move to California and open up a grocery store and do all this stuff. And then I guess the tide had kind of started turning against Asians or Japanese, the war, there were kind of hints. So he hightailed it back with his family. And she grew up in Kochi, but she lost her passport. She was no longer considered American. And if you consider the internment of all these Japanese American citizens, that tracks, right? For that era. As far as America is concerned, she's Japanese, and she was never considered a citizen after that. So
That's so wild.
That's
isn't
nuts.
it?
So
Well, and it makes sense that they would be targets once the war starts, right? Like in America, they would be considered enemies of the state, right? And so it wasn't safe for them here anymore. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you have your first kid, and then suddenly the grandparents are like, "We're big fans," and you're like, "Great, this is awesome." So what happened from there? This is your first kid? You're away from your family, right? Your siblings, your mom. Was she still? How was she doing at that time? Tell us a little bit about that.
She was hanging on.
Yeah.
And when I had my first son, I made it a point to take a trip back to Columbus. And we visited her. We stayed for about a month. I, at the time, was a stay-at-home mom. Hubby was holding it down as the director of the cultural center. We were doing well. By then, did we move back into the house? I can't. Yeah, we did. We did. It was a mess. That house is it was like almost 200 years old at the time and didn't have much renovations, but we were making it work. And I flew home, stayed with my mom for 2 months. She got to know the baby. By then, she had full-time home health care. The nurses were there. A lot of them were African. And one of the nurses I really got close to, she taught me how to wrap the baby with a sheet. And so he just stayed on my back while I did like house chores and stuff. It wasn't the little sling in the front. Like she was like, no, 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 you wrap the baby like this. And it was awesome. So that was really the last time that I saw her in her home, where I could interact with her and she could interact with the baby, in a way that that was good enough that we all like could interact, because
Right.
after that she was basically bedridden by the time my second son was born. The following in 2000, the end of 2000, they're like Irish twins. Because I said, my husband's not getting any younger. I got to hurry up and have these
Yeah.
Chop,
babies.
chop.
Right, right, chop, chop. So we had number two, and he didn't see her until he was about 5 years old. We went back in 2005, and by then she was completely bedridden and in a like a home.
Yeah.
She was still in and out of the house, but she was mainly out of the house. So the house was sitting empty. It was just a whole, it was very stressful. And just being so far away and not really, because my uncle was still just like, if you get involved, I'm going to sue you. Just threats, threats. It just got more and more contentious.
So at that point, were you considering moving back, or what was your thought process?
At that point, I really couldn't move back. I had really forged a life in Japan with my husband, and he was still working, and he was doing really well. I was also contemplating opening up my own business. So I just planned to stay. And I actually contemplated changing citizenship. Can you believe that?
Don't blame you.
Right, but, there back then, it was definitely not as crazy as it is now,
Right.
but I just wanted all the benefits of being a citizen for the sake of my kids.
Yeah.
But they were dual citizens, and, well, somewhat, because up until the age of 22, you can have dual citizenship in Japan, but I knew eventually they would have to choose.
Yeah.
And so I just said, "Well,
Is
let
that
me
the
just
rule for
preemptively."
US or the rule for Japan?
It was okay, so it's changed recently. They've
Okay.
kinda gotten lax on that because they're realizing, like, we don't have enough people. Everybody's old.
Yeah.
They don't have enough young people. They're not having
Mm.
enough babies, so they need foreigners,
Yeah.
and they're not readily giving up their citizenship. So
Yeah.
so I did it because getting a citizenship, in Japan is like they wanted birth certificates of your parents. If they died, they wanted their death certificate. They wanted birth certificate of my brother, my sisters. When I told my brother, he was like, they can kick rocks. He was a full bird colonel in the Air Force. He was like, they're not getting my birth certificate. So that went nowhere.
Right.
So I just stayed a permanent resident.
Nice. Nice. And that, do you have to go back so many times in that? Is it easy to get permanent residency there?
It is not. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's a lot like here, right?
Yeah.
And but it was easier for me because I waited so long. Um I had my kids, I was established, so they were like, "Oh yeah, no brainer, you can get a green card."
Yeah.
And so I got it. I got it fairly easy, but that's because I was established in the community, and I guess having a TV show, kind of helps with that too. Because by that time, I was approached by local TV. I had a business. I was very well known in the community. Because
Yeah.
hello, like there weren't many people looking like this who would speak the language, spoke the dialect. I was completely fluent in the dialect by this time. So you've got an Alabama Japanese speaking, Black American lady in town. It's not like they didn't know who I was.
Know exactly who you're talking about. Yes.
Right. They're
Everyone
like,
knows.
oh, yeah, okay, permanent residency. Yeah. They're like, that tracks. Here you go.
So what was your TV show about?
So I got invited to host. I was a co-host on a local, like, what's happening in Kochi this week, kind of prime time TV show. It was wedged right between two very popular prime time TV shows. So it was like a segment, but it was local, and then they would start the next TV show
Yeah.
that was nationally, syndicated. So that just widened my reach, and it was great for my English school, which I had opened by that time. Gave me great press, and that show lasted for 4 years.
I am dying to know, and I'm very curious how you go from having a TV show, an English school, you're there, you're considering dual citizenship, but that's not really happening, to eventually being in spiritual work and working for the government here and being in
No,
Seattle. So
God.
how did this happen? There's a lot here.
There's a lot. I know. I'm sorry. Like 2-part series, I told you. It's
No,
like,
I love it.
careful what you wish for.
Wait, what?
She's a movie
So,
star over there.
like,
What is
yes.
Yeah.
I often ask myself, what was I thinking? But by this time, my kids were growing up and not speaking English. And it was becoming more and more of a concern for me because Kochi, Japan, much like many of the southern states here, was like ranked the lowest in the country for education, for opportunities, for jobs. And I didn't want them to be stuck. It was a wonderful place for them to grow up, a wonderful community that they were surrounded in. People loved on them. My oldest son dealt with a little bit of bullying because he looked a lot more Western than my youngest. My youngest fit in a lot more. He had more of the Japanese features. My oldest, I always say, what do you do when you mix a Japanese with a black person? You get a Moroccan. And that's basically what he came to look like. So he caught a lot more flack in school. And that started to bother me. And I just one day it just snapped. I just said, you know what? I got to go back. I need to get a job and I need to move my family to America.
Yeah.
Is your husband retired at this point?
The timing was perfect because they were going to, what's the word? When, a small town was going to get
annexed.
Annexed, thank you. They were going to annex, the small town with the larger town. And if he had stayed working for the government, they could have sent him, over an hour away somewhere. He was at the age where he could retire early. He already had 30 years. So he said, I'm good. I'm done. I found an opportunity to go to business school at Ohio State, the Ohio State University. And I got into the grad school right after my mother passed. And I had applied with the sole intention of being back in Columbus so I could take care of my mother.
Yeah.
And I found, she passed December 26th on my son's birthday. And I got into Ohio State that January.
Wow.
I got notification. So I said, well, I guess I can clean up her affairs.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
for
that's what I
telling
did.
her to get her stuff and that it was aggressive, I feel like she lived a lot of years. She really didn't believe any of that. And she willed herself a lot of years, I feel like.
Yeah.
Sheer willpower.
Yeah.
And that woman was powerful.
That's awesome.
But I wouldn't say it was pleasant. I wouldn't wish that disease on anyone. And it turns out, funny fact, every other house in my neighborhood had a case of MS. And every other house that didn't have MS had leukemia.
What?
Environmental. Did you ever
Something's
figure
going
out
on.
what they were exposed to? Yeah.
Literally every other house.
Wow.
It was a very diverse neighborhood, pretty upper middle class neighborhood. And they would do EPA tests and this, that, and the other. Nothing ever registered. But I lost a babysitter. He was 21. He died of leukemia. Neighbor across the street, cat a corner, 7 years old. He died of leukemia. Other neighbors, girls I grew up with across the street, both of them, sisters, have MS. Lady across the street, MS. Next door, cancer. All the way around the block.
Wow. Never found anything.
Never found anything. And so when I had the chance to move back to Columbus, my uncle said, hey, you want to move back into your mom's house?
Sure do not.
To the no. Hell to the no.
No,
And so
Death
I
Alley.
didn't.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thank
Oh,
God I didn't, because I also found out he opened up a equity line of credit for like $50,000
Mm.
when her house had been paid off years ago.
Wow.
But he was just using her as a bank account, quite
Wow.
literally, and didn't tell me about it. So it was offering me the house, but didn't tell me about the line of
Of course
credit.
not.
yeah, because he can give you the credit. He can give you the line of credit. Yeah, and
Yeah.
don't
Right.
foreclose on the house on you. Yeah.
Exactly. Just
Wow.
evil, evil. So I finished up at Ohio State 2 years. I was in that program. The husband kept the kids in Japan and watched them for 2 years. God bless him.
Mm.
He did that. And during that time, before, he couldn't cook, he couldn't clean, he couldn't do anything. He became the best cook, the best cleaner.
Figured it
He
out.
was spectacular. So
Good.
they all eventually moved to the States. I had 4 pets. They all moved with us. I think about it now because he didn't speak English. He spoke
Mhm.
not, my husband did not speak one lick of English. I call him the husband now. So, we already broke the outcome. So the husband didn't speak a lick of English. And so I did all the paperwork, for his visa, just did all of that stuff. But I remember while I had shut down my school, sold it to a friend in Japan, and was preparing to get into Ohio State, was taking tests, and there were several schools I was looking at. During that time, I was like, I need to learn how to meditate. Like, I just got to get myself together. Like, I just knew I was
Yeah.
just frazzled all the time. And I look back now and I think I had a certain level of, probably, if it wasn't perimenopause, maybe it couldn't have been postpartum. I mean, my kids were already like maybe 4 and 5 years old by that time. But just something felt off hormonally. But I didn't identify it at the time. I just thought I needed to meditate. I was also dealing with like some weird neck pain. So a friend of mine was like, "Oh, I know the perfect person you need to go see." And I said, "Okay, is this a chiropractor?" And she said, "No, um, he's a monk." And I think maybe you need to get looked at because this seems spiritual. This doesn't. And I was like, "What?" Like, what are you talking about? She's like, "No, no, no,
Got
just come, come,
spiritual
come."
symptoms. I've never heard of this thing.
What? Okay, neck pain equals spiritual problem. Okay, whatever. I'm down, whatever. So she takes me to this guy. She gives me the information. I didn't want to go by myself, so I had the husband go. He came with me. And it's like this neighborhood of like modern houses. And I'm like, okay. And I go see him. And he's just like this chain smoking guy with, I'm like, I thought he was a monk.
You're like, none of this tracks.
None of this,
Like,
nuts.
I thought we were going to a monastery.
He'd be wearing a
You go to a
robe.
temple or
Incense,
something. No,
not
it's like dude's
cigarettes,
house.
Marlboros. I don't understand.
Exactly. You had golf clubs in the pantry. Like, what is going on? But I stepped into the house, and in a traditional, even if it's a modern Japanese house, they always have a traditional room in the house with the grass flooring. And he had a whole line of tables in there, and it had all these different people's pictures and candles and offerings on them. I was like, whoa. So I sat down with him, and he's like, all right, so tell me what's going on. I'm like, I just had this pain in my neck, and I guess my friend referred me to you. I really don't know why I'm here. And he was like, okay, we can deal with that. He's like, you're moving back to the States, right? Oh, that's interesting you say that. I was actually kind of applying for schools or whatever. So he just like read me.
Mm.
And it was the first time I had ever kind of encountered something like that. Now, mind you, I was always interested in, like, there was a tarot reader in town, and I would and the husband's ex-wife was kind of in this weird kind of cult thing where she, like, they did kind of stuff like that. And like, we went on a date to her, like, reading ritual where it was weird. But anyway, it's out there. Like, they do stuff. So it wasn't super foreign to me. But this guy just like read me, and I was like, wow. And that's why I was like, I need to do more meditation. So when I got into school, I was like, well, maybe there's somewhere in Columbus where I can like practice meditation, because I'm really going to need it if I go to school and I got all this stuff going on. I'd like to learn how to meditate. So I Google just like meditation in Columbus, Ohio. And the first thing that pops up is this website, and it's this guy's face.
Oh.
And I was like, I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman. I was like, oh, that's interesting. But it was like a center called Self-Realization Fellowship. I'm like, all right, I can dig that. Because by this time, I wasn't a practicing Christian.
Right.
I was hardcore Christian growing up in Columbus, went to church, actually went to New Salem, went to Tridestone Baptist, which became New Salem. Now New Salem, I think, is this huge church. Really ingrained in that community, sang in the choir, did all the things. But by the time I got to Japan, I got exposed to just Eastern philosophy, Eastern culture, and they don't go to church on Sundays. That's not what they do. Like Buddhism is embedded in the culture. It's a mindset, right? And as I learned more about that, I kind of loosened my grip on the Christian way of doing things. I really wasn't a stickler, because by this time I was just kind of agnostic. I knew something was out there, but I wasn't really stressing myself about how to practice. Self-Realization Fellowship had like a meeting center. I think the closest one was in Cleveland, and didn't find anything in Columbus. So I emailed them and I just said, hey, I'm moving back to Columbus. It'd be nice if you guys can maybe help me find a center where I can learn how to meditate. No answer, nothing. Get to Columbus in August of 2007. I'm setting up to go to school, to start school for the fall at OSU. And it was hard. You know, I left my elementary school age children. I was alone. I was home, but it wasn't really home. I was 33 years old.
Right. Mom
And
just
that's
passed away. Dad passed away. Yeah.
Dad passed.
Yeah.
Family,
Brother doesn't live
friends.
here.
I hadn't lived in Columbus since I was 17.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I was back and everything was just like, ugh, you know, and also I just had reverse culture shock. Everything was just a shock. But I was getting my computer like together and something was wrong with it. So I got referred to this computer shop. I'm sitting in the lounge, like this Iranian family ran this computer repair shop. I opened National Geographic. They had a stack of them on the table. Open the book, and the first thing that pops up is this man's face.
Oh, shut
Oh
up.
my gosh.
I was like, okay,
Heard.
all right, this
Yep.
is a sign.
Yep.
All right, what's this? What is this? Who is this guy? Okay, it's a guy. We have confirmed it as a man. All right, number one. Number two, oh, he has a book called Autobiography of a Yogi. Okay, let me just get it. Christmas break, I got the book. I read it while I was on Christmas break, went home back to Japan. And that was when I finally got an email back from these people saying, hey, I'm Michael. Would you like to go meditating with us? What? And then he's like, I can pick you up from campus. And I'm like, I don't know about that.
I know.
Turns out he was actually a really nice guy, had a family, everything, lived near campus, and we started going to meditations on Sundays. So I started to learn how to meditate in Columbus, Ohio. It was out in Grove City. Like we drove all the way out to these people's house in Grove City because there was no center.
Yeah.
But once I started that practice, the synchronicities were crazy. And it was synchronicity after synchronicity after synchronicity. And I was like, there is something to this. So I got really into self-realization, really into meditation, and it just laid the path for everything that came after.
Don't cliffhang us like this. Don't do it.
So I was getting close to graduation, was still super heavy. I was having some I had awesome experiences this summer before graduation, had got lined up for a job. And I was looking for a place to live. I was like, oh my God, like now I got a job at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Got a job with the Air Force. It wasn't in anything I had studied in grad school, but they were like, hey, no, just come. We'll train you. Don't even worry about it. You have a grad degree. Check that box. Okay. So I needed to move down towards, Dayton. And I was not familiar with the area at all. My parents were from Tennessee. Like, they didn't take me around Ohio and show me all the things and the stuff of Ohio because they didn't have time and they didn't care. We always went to Memphis. So I was in class one day and we were just talking to some classmates. There were some Air Force people in my class, and I mentioned, like, I got the job at Wright-Pat, but I don't know where should I live. And he said, oh, I know where you should go check out. He said, have you heard of Yellow Springs?
Oh, you're living a dream. Okay. Love this for you. The best place ever. The best place in Ohio.
Yellow Springs. No, I'd never heard of Yellow Springs. Grew up in Ohio all my life. Never heard of Yellow Springs, Ohio. So I said, okay, I need to check that out. I guess I'll go this weekend. Went to Yellow Springs. I'm driving into, they got that one road. Senior road. It's just one road. And there's a banner outside this like restaurant or something, and it's a Superman banner, but it's Barack Obama. I found my town.
Yeah, this is it for me.
I have arrived.
Yes.
I have arrived.
Yes.
Synchronicity. I was like, this is where I'm meant to be. This is where I'm meant to have my family.
Yeah.
So we moved to Yellow Springs. I bought a house and I started my job, moved my family, and it was the most amazing 3 years that I ever spent in my life. My kids were in a community that welcomed them. They didn't speak English.
Yeah.
They did not speak. I spoke to them in English. I raised them speaking English, but they didn't speak it. And so when they started school, they went to summer camp there. I was like, you guys need to get to know the kids and the neighborhood. And they went to summer camp. They refused to speak English. They wouldn't speak.
Oh no.
And then they went to school. And that first week they came back and they were like, Mom, I met this kid in English. That was the first time I had ever heard my children speak English.
Wow.
It was tears. It was like, oh my God. And they loved Yellow Springs. We love Yellow Springs. The husband, he met all kinds of friends and bands, and they invited him to perform in the blues festival. And he was just the man in Yellow Springs. Couldn't speak a lick of English still. But had more friends than I did. Because it's just that kind of town, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It's just that kind of town. And so we spent 3 years there, but for some reason I knew I was only going to be there for 3 years. I just knew and it had nothing to do with work, because I could have stayed there and it could have been the end of that. But something told me I'm only going to be here for 3 years. And sure enough, an opportunity opened up for me to move to Alaska. And at the time I was thinking, well, since I'm working for the Air Force, years ago when I lived in Japan, I saw that there were Americans working on the bases over there. And I was like, how did they get those jobs? Well, I was now in a job where I could get a position overseas in Japan, Italy, anywhere. So I said, you know what? I need to work towards getting my family back to Japan. At least we could be near a base. The kids could go to a base school. They have the best of both worlds. So that was my intent in taking that job in Alaska as a stepping stone to a position in Japan. Well, Alaska didn't quite work out. On the social side, loved it. I learned how to snowboard. We were out and about. I mean, and it would get negative 50s, negative 60s, if you can only imagine. They didn't stop going to work. They didn't stop going to school. Life went on in negative 60. And that was just a whole other level of experience. But we thrived up there. But at work, these people were batshit crazy. Just crazy. So pretty much as soon as I got to the base up there, I was like, okay, this ain't happening.
Yeah.
But we did a lot of great stuff in Alaska, but also my marriage, I was coming to an end. And it became more of a burden for me to deal with a husband who couldn't speak the language.
Yeah.
And he became one of the kids. And it was, emasculating for him. And I'm becoming this, I was getting in my upper 30s, early 40s, and slowly that estrogen goes away and you lose that I care
Yeah.
hormone. Like, and then it started to be, why is this my problem?
Yeah.
You have a responsibility. You chose to move here. As much effort as I put in to living in your country and doing your things, why are you not reciprocating? Mind you, I had a much better foundation, but there are a lot of Japanese women who married American men starting from zero. And guess what? They learn the language, they get ingrained in the community, they do all the things and the stuff. So I started to compare, and I'm just like, you don't get a pass.
Yeah.
You don't get a pass. So by that time, the relationship was strained. And I knew that kind of our days, if years, if not days, were numbered. I eventually decided to move the family to Washington State. That was the closest place we could get to out of Alaska. And we did. And we eventually went our separate ways. He actually had a heart attack.
Oh.
But it was inevitable. I mean, you got a man who's picking up the kids, taking them to school on base, and then he went straight to the BX. The BX is like the soldiers like cafeteria and shopping area. He go to the BX to the Burger King over there at 8 o'clock in the morning. Why do they have a tray with your food ready? Why do they know that you have
I
a
know.
and you get a Coke at 8 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna catch up with you. He loved American food, and
Yeah.
it tore him up. So he had a heart attack in Washington State, and that was where I just said, you know what? Healthcare is free.
Yep.
They got universal health care.
Yep.
And I think, it's probably time we just go our separate ways.
Yeah. And were you
And
still working for the Air Force at that time too? Like, was he basically a stay-at-home dad?
he
Okay.
was, and
Okay.
he was a wonderful stay-at-home father.
Yeah.
I can't take any of that aspect of what he provided to the family. He was a wonderful support. As now I am the head of the household, he couldn't work. But he contributed to just keeping the family stable. So
Totally.
when he was leaving, I was scared shitless because my kids were just starting high school, finishing up middle school, and they were obviously taking it hard. They were super close to their dad, and I felt like, evil bitch,
Yeah.
because how dare I take this man away from his kids?
Yeah.
And not just that, but send him off to another country. It took me a lot of therapy and a lot of counseling. And because by this time I wasn't really in my practice of meditation anymore, I was still kind of involved and getting more engrossed in metaphysics and learning everything I could. And in Yellow Springs, I learned tarot
Mm.
and was really diving deep into that and really asking for guidance and trying to maintain some sort of practice. I was led to a counselor in Portland because I lived near Portland at the time. She was also they were trans, so it was they. They were very connected to spirit. And so while I was going to counseling, they also gave me spiritual counseling. And it just, they literally said, because at the time I was like, I can't leave my husband, maybe I should just wait till the kids are graduated from school. I can't split us up. And they said, if you don't do it now, it's not going to happen until way down the road and someone's waiting for you. Oh, okay. Well, I
Listen.
need a little more kind of counseling after that, just try and figure stuff out. But it
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
He went back, and I was working at the VA by this point because that's where I got my job in DC, not in DC, in Vancouver, Washington, near Portland. And 2015-ish, there was a new guy who came into the office, and he was sitting in the same office as one of my friends that I always went to visit and talk to every single day. And he'd just be in there. And one time he was out of the office, and I looked at my friend. I said, "Don't you think he has a weird shaped head?" And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, "But girl, I guess like Asian men, they." And I was like, "Yeah, I guess my ex, he had a weird shaped head too, but his head is like just flat down the back. Like, what is up with that one? Ha 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 ha." I was losing weight. I was working out. I was looking good. Like, I lost like 20 pounds. Like, I was just, my glow up was like,
What's
I was
happening?
the worst glow up. I was looking good. All of a sudden, he starts joining in on our conversations when I went to visit her. And this went on for like 2 years. We're just cool. Um, but then every once in a while, he'd say, "Hey, I'm going to lunch. You wanna go get some noodles or something?" And as I learned more about him, he's Tibetan American, Army veteran, and I just felt good around him. Like, he was just cool. He was 5 years younger than me, and we had a lot in common. Though it was weird. Like, he grew up in Astoria, Oregon. I don't know if you've ever been to Astoria. You know the Goonies?
Yes.
That's where they filmed it.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Beautiful. And so we would visit. It was about an hour away from where I lived. And I just learned more and more about him. And then, like, he asked me out on a date. And that just blew my mind. But if you saw what I looked like back then, I wouldn't blame him. I looked good. I was probably about 30 pounds lighter. But by then we were good friends.
Yeah.
And so it was just kind of like, and I wasn't sure because he really, like, to me, okay, is he my type? Does it really matter? But ultimately it didn't, because our rapport was so good and I was so comfortable. And I tried the online dating thing. Absolutely not. I got stalked. Like, I couldn't do that. I couldn't play those games anymore. I was like, these people are not normal on here. So thank goodness, I found stability and we dated. First date we went on, he's like, "So my parents want me to get married." What?
I'm like, listen, whoa.
Yeah, listen, boo boo. I've been there, done that, not interested. And he had never been married, 37 years old, no kids. He's a unicorn.
Yeah.
But he wore me down.
Oh, I love
And
it.
during that time, I was still doing my metaphysical practice. I was still just reading offhand, tarot. And ultimately, I knew that I wanted to get into some type of work, or even if it was a side hustle. And I don't like to think of it as a hustle, because when it becomes a hustle, it's not authentic, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But I always did it on the side, mainly, readings for friends and family. Not so much for family because they're a little more traditional. But I found out during my, growth as a reader that my great grandmother was like a professional reader. I had no idea. In Memphis, somebody came up to me at the Air Force Base who actually knew my family and said, your great grandmother, we called her Big Mama. Of course, she was only 5 feet tall. Big Mama. And she read everybody. She took roots. She said she took roots off of everybody in the neighborhood. I was like,
Wow.
what? So that made me want to learn more. And I asked cousins. They told me how she looked to the stars. People would come to her salon. She looked to the stars and she would read. She didn't use cards. She didn't do anything. And I guess she was good enough that she did it professionally.
Wow. Isn't it interesting how that gets buried after a few generations and no one suddenly wants to talk about it? And you're like,
Right.
this is interesting because I've been feeling this pull my whole life. And now I know that it's a part of me. It's a part of who I am and where I came from.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's a part of all of us.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Ancient tradition has had shamanic, whether you want to call them witches down the road, it's always been demonized because it was so powerful. But before, the divine feminine energy was embedded in our traditions and our cultures. And, they were obliterated by this, toxic masculinity. And in some cultures, in a lot of cultures, in Polynesian culture, the women were the standard bearers, the landholders, the property owners, the decision makers. And we've lost so much of that, but I truly believe that it's coming back. And we're seeing the last gasps of
That gave me
patriarchy.
chills. I never get chills. The last gasps. I love that. Tell us more about how, like, what are you doing now when it comes to this realm? And then what are you seeing that's happening collectively right now?
Mm.
Did you ever tap into your psychic side like your grandmother, or is that part of your tarot? You still use it through tarot?
It's funny because because I still love to go to readers, every reader that I go to, they're like, what are you doing? Why are you using tarot? You don't need them.
Just a
Get
tool.
rid of the crutch. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
tool, and I
Yeah.
enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
I learned it. Let me apply what I learned. I spent a lot of time learning this. And they're like, you don't need any of that stuff, which to me is still kind of imposter syndrome, right?
Absolutely.
Like, you need proof. All right, you need the cards. You need something to look at. You need,
Yes.
no, like, I'm reading people more than I think I realize when I'm just talking to folks and having conversations. And if they're sharing parts of their life and I give insight, to me, I'm thinking it's just like common sense. But sometimes they're like, oh my God, how do you know that? So I think I'm tapping in more to it than I personally am realizing. But since I've moved here, now I live in Tacoma, Washington, and I've connected with a spiritual center here that uh, is very similar to Self Realization Fellowship, where they center meditation and going inwards. Because I think collectively, I mean, we all went through 2025 as a federal worker was hell. I graduated from Ohio State in a program where folks went off to work for Fortune 500 companies and were making twice as much as me, starting out the blocks. But I chose civil service because I was drawn to it and I wanted to give back. And it was very rewarding for me, right? But I was making less than 55,000 to start out with, and I had a graduate degree. But they always said, "Hey, you start in government, it's a little rough in the beginning, but you work your way up and it's secure, it's stable, right?"
We have the most
And that
unstable human being running it suddenly.
now when somebody is unstable
Yeah.
and we just hand it to 'em. We just handed the whole government to them. So it has been a very jarring experience as someone who believed, because up until then, it had been stability for us and my family, and I'm so grateful for the opportunities it provided me and allowed me to raise my children, right? And then last year happened, and it was just like, oh my God, what does this mean? Well, I think for a lot of people, it's an awakening. And for me, it was a call for me to go back inward, because the realization was my path is not set with an outer entity that could give a shit about me, could give a shit about my family. I have to find a path that will not just give me security, but also nurture me. And as I've hit my 50s and the kids are out of the house, I can focus more on that and I can dive deeper into that collective consciousness. And I'm that, how do I put it? It's expanding everyone's awareness, but my awareness also expanded at the time to realize that this is the work that I'm meant to do. And there were always hints. And the other thing that a lot of the readers were telling me was, you're going to continue to get a boot in your ass until you step on your path and do the work. And it's going to get worse. and worse and harder to continue the status quo until you do the work, because this is what you're meant to do.
Wow.
And sure enough, 2025 happened.
Got a big boot on the ass.
Not just on it, up it.
Up it, around it.
Oh my God.
You need to do this immediately. So where have you taken that? Where's it led you?
So when I got furloughed, because I got furloughed, I said, you know what? I'm going to open up Amakenings. And that's what I chose to call it, because it's an awakening, but it's also an awakening in the making. I'll say that again. It's an awakening in the making.
I like that.
We've all had different awakenings throughout our lives. We've all reinvented ourselves, especially as women, pre-motherhood, motherhood, even if you don't have kids, even if you've never been married. You have all these past lives behind you. By the time you reach my age, and some folks think I'm still pretty young. You talk to people in their 70s and 80s, how many past lives have they had in this one lifetime, I mean, look how long this conversation is. But the thing is, we're continuously having awakenings. We're becoming something new. And I feel like conscious co-creation is manifestation, which brings you in alignment with the universe to create your next path and your next purpose. And I want to help people in that path by giving them readings the way I receive them. Yeah. There was so much insight from the various readers that I came across through my life, even if it wasn't from my own family, even though I think my mother was a lot more psychic than she wanted to admit. And when she told me to take Japanese, she said I would be rich. And maybe I am rich because I gained a family. I gained a whole other country that I call home. I gained an abundance that I never really felt like I had in the States growing up, because I came from such a splintered family. Yeah. And when I experienced Japan and being embedded in that culture, it opened up to me a way of life and a way of thinking that I don't think I would have ever come across living in the States as an American. I am a citizen of the world. I have a Japanese family. My husband is still my family to this day. We visit. My current husband, who is Tibetan American, his mother has moved in with me, with us. I have 3 families now.
Yeah. Yeah.
We go visit the husband. We just came back in November, and they have a bromance. He's like, can we live here? I want to live with him. I love him,
Yeah, been there, done that now. Thank you.
Been there, done that now. But that was, I think she tapped into something.
Yeah.
Where she was right. I did become rich.
Yeah. Yeah. And if people want to get your guidance or get a reading from you, where can they find you and how can they do that?
So I have a Vagaro account called Amakenings. And if you just go into Vagaro, Vagaro, you can do a search there under Amakenings. I will also provide you with the link. Perfect. I am still starting very slowly. Yes. So if my weekends are open, feel free to call or to email. And I also started a YouTube channel, which I'm really excited about, where I kind of give some of my insights, and they could be pretty controversial, but that's how I roll. If you ever ask Carrie, that's why,
I think now I'm having like a flashback of remembering what link she sent me, and it was to one of your YouTubes. I cannot wait to deep dive.
Yeah.
Please do, because that channel is really just me ranting, whether it's about spirituality, because I'm a spiritual person. I'm not a religious person. And I think the collective consciousness is moving towards that. And like I said, once again, it's the last gasp of a lot of things. And in the YouTube video that I've uploaded, which is called Your New Year's Resolutions Are Bullshit,
Love to hear this. Yes.
We're in already.
Thank you. Well, it's more about intention, right? It's not about a resolution. And there are certain questions in that video that I'm asking myself so that you can realign yourself for 2026. And that channel is also under Amakenings.
Okay.
But in the first video that I've uploaded, I actually went to go see what's the James Cameron movie? Avatar.
Oh yeah.
Highly recommend. I was not, that was my son saying, Mom, I want to go see Avatar. We went to see it and I was like, wow, he gets it.
Mm-hmm.
He gets it. He understands the divine feminine and the role that it's going to play in the years to come. And that movie is all about the divine feminine.
Yep. It has
It's
been from the very
fantastic.
first one. It was
From the very
it was
first
part
one.
of it's my favorite movie series of all time, but and everybody's like Avatar, that seems weird. And I was like, I'm like, no, it is very much about the divine feminine from the very beginning and Mother Earth and, and all of those things and sacred space and sacred that we're all connected. And it hit very much in my spiritual heart when I watched it. And I was like, I watched it on repeat and continue to watch it. And I'm like, the cinematography is great, but it's really the storyline of all of those things that hit me. Yeah.
Absolutely. Colonization.
Yeah.
War.
All of it.
Even the tree of life is in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And so people who get it, they see it.
Yeah.
And people who don't, I highly encourage them to watch it and to do a little research on what
Totally.
the age of Aquarius truly means.
Mm.
We're moving out of the age of Pisces, which was, Jesus, the fish, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're moving into the age of Aquarius. And one thing about fish is you traveled in schools of thought, everything was a school with a group because that provided protection. Now we're moving into an age where we are going inward to be able to function outward because we're going to be forced to go inward.
Totally.
We're going to be forced to reflect on who we are as people, who we are as a country, who we are as a planet.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
We will make sure we tag our YouTube channel. I think
Yeah.
it is really important that we know where we can find voices that are sharing some of this insight. We talk about it a lot together on the pod with people, but just being able to hear other people share that same messaging, I think is going to be, it's great for my nervous system. I'll tell you that much. Just to know that someone out there is also seeing how crazy it is and not denying that, but then also can help center to what's to come. So thank you for doing that work. I think it's really, really important.
Thank you. And I appreciate that there is recognition outside of what we would assume would just be the circles that are talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also part of the awakening on a macro level, right? But the awakening has to start at the micro level with each person.
Right.
Absolutely. Wow. This has been awesome.
Agreed.
Amazing.
Agreed. You're a true storyteller, and you have a gift in telling your story, and your experiences are very rich. And I think your mom was spot on. You've had a very rich life in your experiences, and surpassing where you come from 10 times in what you've expanded into your family and your children. And I would consider you I'm sure what do they call that? An ancestral break point, right? Where you are the outlier that now changes the direction of your family forever.
And helping other women realize that too. And I think it's really important for women to hear different timelines, to hear I got a divorce in my early 40s, and I was able to reinvent myself. And I did something different. So that's something else we're really passionate about is, hey, there's a different path. We could be on here for another hour. So we might have to have you back.
Yes.
Anytime. I'd
Oh,
love to see
We'd
where
love to have
we're
you
all
back
at.
on when Amakenings is really becoming your full-time gig, which we believe is coming for you in 2026.
yes.
We would
Thank
love to
you.
have you come back on and talk about it.
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
I'd love to. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for this.
Yeah,
Well,
you're
thank
welcome.
you. We will tag in the show notes all the places that you can, YouTube. And what was the name of the other app? I forgot it already.
Vagaro.
New to this. We'll learn
I
all about it
know.
after this.
I never heard of it either.
Love this. Love a new platform. So you can find all of our episodes on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeart. We're also now on Patreon. So give us a shout out, and we really appreciate you coming on the show today.
Thanks for coming. We appreciate it. We had a great time.
Love you
You
all.
as well. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Love you guys.